It's election day. Holy moly, it's here. It is here. Everybody starts buying houses tomorrow. How excited are we all this morning? How are we doing out there? How are we doing? Who's got something to be grateful for that you'd like to share with the group? At a minimum, we got to be grateful for this day almost being behind us. That should be the bare minimum in our journals this morning. Come on, somebody's got to have something. Does this group of people just lead the most miserable lives? Somebody put a smile on our faces. I'll tell you what put a smile on my face. Libby. Who knows Libby? Nobody knows Libby? Come on, people. Not one
Libby.
person?
Oh, who's Libby?
Nobody knows who Libby is?
Libby was my Nana.
So Libby is an app that allows you to get free books from the library. So if learners are earners, the Libby app is a must. So yeah, you can pretty much get anything. You might just have to wait for it. For anybody that has Kindles or whatever you use to read, whether you're using an iPad or you're using your phone. But Libby just connects. You go to your local library, you get your library card, you connect your Libby account. You got pretty much access to everything, including like new releases and stuff. That's pretty wild. Typically, they'll have, I don't know, maybe 6 to 10 copies of a book. They're digital copies. And so like, let's say they've got 6, then 6 could be out at any time. So if there's 6 of them out in people's devices, I think you get it for like 14 days. And then, if you read it, great. If you don't, you might be able to get a quick extension, maybe a week or something. And then it just goes back, and whoever's on the wait list, it pops up on your phone. Hey, you were waiting for this book. Did you want it or not? So pretty cool. And they've got, all different types of genres and everything. So, just kind of taking the library to the next level into the digital age of 2024. So there's another app that kind of connects in that I'm blanking on. It has a ton of books too, but it also has like a lot of book summaries, which is pretty cool. Anybody know what that one is? There's another one that hooks up to your library card. Taking this group of individuals is not going to the library that much.
The Libby app? Sorry, I just joined it.
Yeah, no, it's not Libby. It's another one. I don't know. But anyway, and then the final piece I will give you guys on Libby and other apps. I'm just trying ChatGPT to see if I can come up with that other one. Hoopla. That was the other one. Hoopla. But they've got a bunch of different summaries. But the other thing is, if you guys I hear this all the time, right? I'm listening to a podcast, I'm watching a YouTube video, and somebody will make a book recommendation. And then you put it on your list and you never get to it. Or if you're, really, really efficient, maybe you're getting to some of the books that you hear. I think the easiest way to at least get a general knowledge of whatever that is to use ChatGPT. Use one of the custom GPTs. I use one. What is it called here? It's just called Book Summarizer. So, if you guys aren't familiar with ChatGPT and custom GPTs, these are GPTs that people can create. Some people can charge for them. Other people are just creating these and letting the public use them for free. But they've basically given it a set of instructions to act on. So there is one that if you just put, if you go into the custom GPTs and you ask for a book summarizer, there'll be a bunch that come up. And the one that I use is just one of the more highly rated ones. And you can ask for a detailed summary, a high-level summary. You can ask for more on a certain part of the summary. So it's a really easy way when you get, hey, here's a book recommendation, jot it down, go to ChatGPT, ask for the summary. If you like it or you think it interests you, then you can go out and go to Libby and get the full book. And so all of this is for free. So anybody else, have any hacks on books or things that you're doing to educate yourselves? Well, hopefully those couple of tips will inspire you to have a process in place when you get those book recommendations moving forward, because they're pretty good, and they make it really, really easy to, what I say is get the joke. Most of you guys, if you've read nonfiction, a lot of times you're talking a couple hundred pages, but within the first two chapters, you kind of get the joke of what the book is about. And so these book summaries are a really good way to do that. Obviously, you don't get all the little stories and get it put into context as much, but it's a really, really easy way to quickly digest when you're listening to something and they give you a book recommendation. So let's flip it over to some real estate. Who has got something that's going on that's pretty unique on one of their deals? Jen.
So I have a situation with a divorced couple, and the husband and wife, it's really not a good situation. They're not able to really speak without arguing. They needed to agree on an agent. And so this lady contacted me because I helped a friend of hers who got divorced. And but I don't know her, but we got along really well. And I spoke to her husband, and he was fine with working with me, which she was so excited about because they haven't been able to agree on that. So I got paperwork together and he signed it, but she said that her attorney told her not to sign it because there wasn't I didn't put a price in there. I put to be determined because they weren't ready to do it right now. And I wasn't even sure, like we had a date, but I told them we should wait until that date to finalize the price. I didn't want to put something down. And I'm glad that I did that only because they've been dragging it out and their relationship's gotten so bad that I feel like I'm just a therapist every time I talk to them. So anyway, long story short, she didn't sign it because her attorney told her not to. But he did. And one day he's like ready to go and sell. The next day they get into an argument and he's kind of holding back, and she wants to sell, but her attorney told her not to sign, the whole thing. So anyway, long story short, he went to an open house and was talking to an agent, and we were talking about this property because it'd be a good comp for him. So, I talked to them about, when this closes or as soon as we can find out what it's selling for, it's certainly going to be a great comp because they were still doing a little painting and things were really dragging out. But anyway, she said, well, I can come over and do a market analysis for you. And so when I talked to the wife, she was telling me that she didn't come over, but they've been in communication, the husband and her. So like I've never really had anything like this where it's just been, this complicated, I guess. And I'm not really sure if, because he signed everything, like if there's any, is he committed to me? You know what I mean?
KB, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, my thought, unfortunately, would be no. We actually just had a situation like this where we went to put a house on the market. The woman did not let us know that, well, we did put the house on the market. I think there was another party that had interest in it, and the contract wound up being a voidable contract because both parties that have interest in selling the property have to sign a contract in order for it to be valid. So my thought on this is no, that he probably doesn't owe you any loyalty at this point. But my recommendation would be, I guess why wouldn't we just put a number in there? If you have a delayed listing and you just put a number in the contract to get the wife's signature, you can always adjust that when you go to market if, the market dictates something different.
Yeah. And I guess lesson learned. I didn't want to, I, I wanted to be accurate and I didn't want to put something,
I mean, I get that. And I know, because I just know how you think, Jen, and you want it all to be like correct, right? But like the reality is this other agent that's going in there is just going to give them a number. You know what I mean? So my thought is give them a number that makes sense today if you're going to do the listing as delayed. And then you can reassess the price point, you know, as the market changes.
so could I, now could I print this, put in a price and have her sign it? Or is that not okay? No, because he
Yeah,
already signed without a price.
Yeah,
he would
you
have
can't.
to then initial that
He would have
price.
to
Yeah,
initial it.
have to
Okay.
Yeah.
initial it.
Okay.
Any changes would have to be initial. Yep.
Right. Okay. Well, that would be probably easier than redoing it at this point.
Yes.
And I could put something in.
Yep.
Okay.
That'd be my guess, my thought. I don't know if anybody else has a different. Lauren, you have your hand up.
Yeah, my additional thought is kind of just to protect like your feelings and how you want to go about this. We could additionally get into our provision section of our contract that we can make sure that we revisit or reevaluate the value and the price of the property prior to it going on to confirm or change what is listed in the contract.
That's a great suggestion. Because if they drag it out, I mean, the market's changing, or even the strategy of what number you're going to price it at to get a number that you're looking for.
Yeah, I think you were along the right lines, Jen. Like if you're taking a listing agreement that is going to be, more than 30 days out, it's going to be difficult to know what price we should come on the market at that point. So, I think like you said, lesson learned, just throw a number in there always, if or whatever it's going to take, I think, when somebody's hesitant to sign, so we can get it signed and put language like Lauren saying of, hey, look, we're not all on the same page with regards to this price. So prior to listing, all parties agree that we will revisit the price in the contract or something to that effect. So, yeah, KB, could you maybe elaborate a little bit more on the deal that we had? My understanding was we were unaware, our agent was unaware that there were multiple parties that needed to sign the listing agreement. So, they'd meet with what they think is the only seller, check public record. Public record doesn't have a second seller listed. We go ahead, we bring the property to market, we market it, we get an accepted offer even, and then all of this happens?
Newer agent didn't check public record
Okay.
to verify that there was somebody else that had ownership in the property. The woman who signed the contract said that she was the only party that had ownership in the property. So put the property on the market, get our photographers out there, pay for all of our marketing, put it on the market, host an open house, get an offer gets accepted, sends it over to attorneys say no, that you need both parties to agree to this. Second party says absolutely not selling the house, contract's voidable. So in this situation, we had already had an initial deposit. We were holding the escrow funds in our account, and typically, that's the reason it kind of came by me. Typically, when you're holding escrow, the termination has to be canceled and there has to be a release of deposit agreement. In this situation, the attorneys were saying no, because it's a voidable contract. We don't have to have that because we didn't really have a deal to begin with, and we could go ahead and return the escrow funds. So I did call MAR Legal to verify, as well as had both of the attorneys put it in writing that we could return it, because the husband was refusing to sign, or ex-husband was refusing to sign anything. So we were able to return the deposit without that. Yeah, it was just interesting situation, but when you guys are putting on a property, please make sure, not everybody's always truthful. Make sure you're checking to verify ownership of a property by pulling public record, looking at the deed, things like that.
Any other questions on this stuff, guys, regarding multiple parties, listing agreements? This was a great topic, Jen, to bring to the table, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good topic, and I think something else that I've been seeing a lot lately is, and I know that Florida's had a lot of issues with price adjustments, stuff is sitting on the market, and it just feels like we're really starting to hit a shift. And one of the things that I've noticed, especially with the our listing team, we have our Zillow listing team out in Eastern Mass. They're all they're newer agents, right? So a lot of these conversations are not something that they are savvy in or have had practice in, and they haven't been exposed to a market where things are going to sit. So I think that we really need to be very mindful of setting appropriate expectation at the beginning of the transaction when we are first meeting our seller clients, right? It's not as easy to take a look at days on market and over the past 60, 90 days and tell them, hey, yeah, I'm going to be able to get this sold in a weekend or 2 weekends. I would never recommend telling a seller a timeline of what you're going to do, because the reality is, especially as things are shifting, depending on how you're pricing the property, it might not move as quickly as you would like it or they would like it to move. And if you set an expectation saying, oh, we'll have this sold in 2 weeks, you're going to look like you didn't do your job. I would rather set a longer expectation and then get it under contract faster and look like you're knocking it out of the park. I don't know. It's just a topic that I think we should definitely talk about, because I've seen it a few times, two times actually in the past 2 weeks, of sellers that were very unhappy. So.
Yeah, and I think just to elaborate on that, proper expectation should be a weekly check-in, right? When we're listing properties, when things are just flying off the shelf, by the time you had the open house, you're touching base with under a week. But when things are sitting, you can't go more than a week without talking to your sellers. So I think setting the expectation of, this is the day of the week that we touch base. Maybe it's Thursdays. Hey, I'm going to touch base with you every Thursday until this property is sold. But I definitely agree with KB, kind of showing what the market is looking like. Pull the local market stats from your MLS on, hey, on average, properties are going under agreement in this amount of days. Okay, but the properties that don't go under agreement in this amount of days, the average on market is X, right? And so the last stat I saw nationally on that was like properties going under a market in I think it was 20 days. So within the first few weeks. But if you didn't go under in the first few weeks, average days on market was 2 months. It was 55 days. So you need to know the delta there between the two. So, hey, look, if we miss the mark and we're stale, this is typically what's happening. And now we're chasing the market. Jen, you were next.
I wanted to also ask about the time frame. So when you're putting in the time frame into the listing and they're not quite ready, like in this situation, they thought they were going to be ready in a certain day, they weren't. It dragged out further. I definitely didn't think that they were going to want to list after Halloween. So I guess, what is the best thing to do with the time frame? Because I guess that whatever you write in, because you want to make sure that you're covered all the time, right? So if you're not listing for a month, would you put a month to begin there or no? Because if they, somebody came around and said, well, I have a buyer, I can do like a 1-day listing, then they really would be able to do it before yours starts, right? So can you just explain that, and then what forms you'd need to keep sending to MLS, and when they would apply?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is, I just want everybody to really understand what Jen's even talking about, because I think this might be even going over some people's heads. If you were to go and meet with a seller today and they're talking about listing, in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, but you're going to be their agent, you're going to want to get an exclusive listing agreement, right? Because here's what's going to happen. If you don't do what Jen did, right? So there's a couple of lessons learned, that she could have done a couple of extra things. But the one thing that she did do right was get the listing signed, right? Because the minute people are in, I'm going to sell my house mode, right? If you go out to that house, you don't get that listing signed, they go to work the next day, we're selling our house. Oh, you're selling your house? You got to use my agent. She's the best. He's the best. You got to meet with them. And if you don't have that listing agreement signed, somebody else could have the opportunity to get in there and list that property. So that's the first thing I want to make sure everybody understands, is you've got to get these listings signed with a delay. So Jen, I think you're on the right idea, right? Whatever you think is going to be the date, If you think it's 30 days out, then let's just put 30 days out and we can address it at that time moving forward. Every MLS has a different form for when you're going to delay. I think the MLS one is just a delayed listing form. Is that, or is it, I think it's delayed, but I
Yeah,
want to say it's delayed. But on the delayed though, isn't that the one that has a limit as to how far you can delay it?
no, that's the deferred.
Oh, that's the deferred. Okay. All right, that's deferred. Okay. So delayed could be for unlimited amount of time.
Yeah, delayed. Yeah, delayed is out in the future, unlimited amount of time. Deferred is, I think it's, you can defer it up to 7 days if I'm correct. It's different in different states. In
Yeah.
Massachusetts, 7 days, and then coming soon, I believe, is 21. So yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the delayed, you can put it on, and I think it could be out. I think it has. I think there is a time limit, but I think it's like a year. I have to look at it. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. And then, I mean, the other thought is I know most, or I think all of them are going to have non-MLS options, right? So, hey, for the next 30 days, we could just be not in the MLS. I have the listing agreement. I might start to drum up some business, you know, Mr. Seller. No showings or anything like that, but that's another option, Jen, is to go non-MLS and just, you have the listing agreement. You're just not going to start the marketing yet. So KB, you had your hand up. Did you have something separate, or was it regarding this? You're muted.
I really like the non-MLS option better than the delayed, only because if you submit it to MLS as a non-MLS listing, you can, talk about it. You can, kind of put your feelers out, see if you can find a buyer for the property, even though they might not be 100% ready. I like that idea as opposed to just delaying it. I mean, obviously they have a bunch of stuff they have to do or they can't agree on something, then the delayed really works well. But I do like the non-MLS idea. But the other thing that I want to make sure that it was when you were talking about your weekly check-ins. I think the weekly check-ins are super important, but you have to be prepared for the weekly check-ins and know what's available to you. Because when you're doing a weekly check-in with a seller, you should have all of your reports for everything that your marketing activity has done to draw attention to their property. So that was another thing that came up. One of the sellers was like, well, they didn't do anything. They hosted 4 open houses. Well, yes, they did host 4 open houses, right? But we also got this amount of views. We asked for a price reduction. You didn't want to do that. Like, you have to be able to support the activity that you're doing to show that you're working for them every single week, to have an update available to them. So I guess the biggest thing for me is just understand what marketing is being done and know how to get that data so that you have something to bring to those meetings of value.
Yeah. And the other thing that you brought up, Jen, that I wanted to make sure you understood is once you have that listing agreement signed, you talk whether it's non-MLS or delayed, or nobody can come in and say, I'll take a one-day listing and try and do something. You have that exclusive listing agreement.
Right, but
So
it has to be
no,
submitted to MLS. Everyone needs to know that.
yeah.
Because we had someone who had a listing agreement signed and with a delayed and never submitted it to MLS, and then it went out with another agent. So
Okay.
it has to be
Your hand
submitted.
is still up, Jen. Did you have further questions on it?
I do. I was just wondering about like how MLS would view this. So the husband signed at it with a certain date, and if the wife signs so much later, I mean, that's why I can't send anything to MLS because it's not ready. Would they understand that?
I don't think you have any issues with, I couldn't get both parties to sign, right? And on this date, I finally got the second party to sign. Have the seller initial the price, and you should be good.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just make sure that when the person who already signed initials the price agreement, to put the date that he initialed it, not the date that he originally signed. That way everything is clean.
Or I could just get one of those change forms and then have the wife sign the existing agreement and then just have them both sign the form with the price, right?
Yeah, you could do that too. But I'm assuming that her attorney's probably gonna want her signature on the original form. So with the price, if that's the issue. In my opinion, they would both work, Jen. So I think whatever whatever the the wife and the attorney are comfortable with is the way I would do it, because either one of them would work for us logistically.
All right, what other questions do we have out there? There's got to be something bouncing around in somebody's head regarding these listing agreements and getting these docs signed.
Jeff and Linda had their hand up. I don't know if they're still on.
Yeah, hi. In regards to like listing agreements, one of the things that the view we take, and I think I agree kind of with a lot of what's been said, is get those things signed as soon as you can to lock that in. You can, depending on what their time frame, your seller's time frame is, do they have to, are they going to move? Is there certain time benchmarks for them that they're waiting for that's delaying you going to market as soon as possible? But we will put in a price based on the current market conditions at the time of our conversation, because we have to have a number in that blank to get them to sign something. There's, it's a challenge to put nothing in there and ask them to sign something as you run into. But we will put in a price there, but we'll have that same conversation to say, okay, if we're waiting 30 days or 60 days, then we will come back and revisit this price, because we need the price in there now for the contract to be signed today. And that's a placeholder, just as the go live date is a placeholder. Then down here in Florida, we can use a temporary exclusion form. We can't do coming soons and pre-market before we go live. That's not allowable here. So we can keep that in there. We can even adjust the date, that our go live date, with a modification form that is down here and usable for us. So we keep those things very much in hand to get the listing agreement now, get it done, get it signed, so you can put that in the bank and start working on everything else that you need to get ready to market.
Go ahead, KB.
Awesome. That's good stuff, Jeff. I didn't know what the name of that form was, so I appreciate that.
Yeah,
So I think that a thing that popped into my head, and it's just a resource, a training that I think that everybody would definitely find valuable if you haven't already, are there's two trainings, specific Chiron trainings, that are really fantastic. And one is the calendar close and the other one is the pricing progression. I know we've talked about them before, but those two trainings will really, really help you have those conversations, because the calendar close helps you really, really pick a date. It's taking like their drop dead date, which is the last date that property could be sold, and like counting backwards with all the activities that you have to do to get the house in order to actually go on the market. And I think that when you do it that way visually for somebody, it really helps, even if you have two people that are not necessarily on the same page. If they know what day they both want to be out, you can count back from there and help them come to a decision of when we need to be on the market. And then the other one is the pricing progression. And that's basically just, helping them to decide how they want to price the property. So like you're saying, Jen, that we don't really have a number right now. We don't know what the market's going to do. Yeah, that's true. But if you break it down, saying, okay, we can do these three types of pricing, which is, what they call it event pricing, which is a little under market value. You could do market value pricing, or you can do what's called aspirational pricing, where you're putting it on a little bit higher because, you have a specific property, or it's in a high needs or high want area, something like that. And you can at least show them the three different ways we can price the property. So that way, if you do pick a number now, you can pull the comps in the future, and you can say, okay, so based on the number that we have, right? Remember, we talked about those three types of pricing. Where would be aspirationally priced right now, right? So with that being said, do we want to still price this property above market value and see what happens? Or, we're kind of getting close to our drop dead date. Do you think we should go a little bit more under value or at value, right? So I think that if you familiarize yourself with those trainings and those conversations, they would really be beneficial to using in a delayed listing situation.
I think the beauty of those trainings is that you never have to worry about the seller complaining about the price, because they picked it and they picked the timelines that come along with those prices. When you are picking the price or showing them the comps and not going over aspirational, market-based, and event pricing and the timelines that come along with those, all of a sudden when it doesn't sell, it's on you. And now they're upset. What's going on? You're not doing any marketing. No. you guys told me we looked at the calendar and you guys told me we didn't need to close for 180 days. You guys were okay with that. And so remember, you guys decided to go with the aspirational pricing because you're like, hey, what's the big deal if it doesn't sell in the first couple of months? Well, if we can get this big number, that'd be great. Right? So if you're changing your mind now and you want to go more like, hey, we got to move this property, then we got to go with the event pricing. When we take a look back at those comps, that means we probably need to be around here. So it just takes all the pressure off of you when you can do the education with the calendar and with the 3 types of pricing. Let's see here. Who is next? Jen.
I just wanted to bring something up. Maybe we could talk about it tomorrow. I just don't want to forget. All this talk was kind of getting me to think about the refer form and how we pick areas and a price point. And I was just wondering, can we put something in there that says like most likely or in this area or most likely in this price range? Just because I just want to make sure that the referral's not like contingent upon that information. Do you know what I mean? Because they could very much change their price point or area.
Right. Yeah. I think you can do that. No problem. Just put when you're putting it in there, you can just add that in the notes. Yep. I don't think we need to. I think it's as simple as that. Lori, bring us home. What do you got?
I kind of jumped in late, so I don't know if this is relevant to what you guys were talking about, maybe, but sometimes if I'm getting a listing contract signed like 6 months in advance, it seems like, really early just to get it all signed and, lock them in. Regarding the listing price, sometimes, and I took this page from Adam back in the day, all right, to be announced for the listing price, because it's just too early to determine where we should be. And we talk about it, we talk about numbers, we don't nail it down. So I just write to be announced. So at least I have everything locked and signed, and then we can revisit it when we get closer to the time of listing.
Yeah, so unfortunately, that's what Jen did. But one of the sellers didn't want to sign that form. They wanted an actual price in there. And
Well, I
so
think the big thing about it was the attorney wouldn't let her sign it.
Gotcha.
Or-
I mean, you could
yeah.
even, change it. I've changed it before too. If they're uncomfortable with that, we'll put a price and then go back. And then like I jumped in when you were saying initial and date, with the name and
I
everything
think
like that.
that's
You can
that's
always
the
edit it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the better way to do it.
Sometimes the day of listing, I'm about to click it live and I look at comps one more time and I'm like, guys, I just got to tell you my gut feeling on this. You know what I mean? Like we've changed it several times before, landing. So you can always edit it,
Yep. And you just, it's like in a lot of things, like if you're in a condo complex, right, and something just came on and it's very comparable and it's, 5% less than yours, you got to explain to your seller, hey, look, anybody that comes to look at this complex is going to look at both units. And if you need to move this in the next 30 days, we're seeing, only a couple of units are moving every 6 months at this complex. If you need to be the next one to move, we got to be aware, right? And the same thing could happen with a property on the street. So, taking a quick peek, if it's been a little while, to see what else you have for competition is definitely the way to do it. So awesome. Great stuff today. Lori, is your hand still lagging or did you have something else you wanted to add?
No, I just have to turn it
There you
off.
go.
Sorry.
No worries. Awesome stuff today. Appreciate you guys. This was really, really important stuff. I think we got pretty deep on this. A bunch of great shares, tips, tricks. So really, really good conversation today. Looking forward to tomorrow. Enjoy your Tuesday, and we'll do it again tomorrow. Take care.